Imagine waking up and finding yourself in another person's body. The goal is to find the bomber on a train, but you only have 8 minutes. The film begins with a man waking up on a train. He hears gunshots, but then suddenly wakes up. He looks around, confused, as a girl who seems to know him talks to him. The girl, Christina Warren, calls him by the name Sean, but he doesn't seem to know her. The man, who is Colter Stevens, says he is a captain and helicopter pilot in the US Air Force. The girl thinks he is joking, and Colter gets up to get some air. Suddenly, he sees his reflection in the window, showing a different face. Colter goes into the bathroom and sees an entirely different face in the mirror. In his wallet, he finds the ID card of Sean Fentress, a teacher. Christina is waiting for him outside the toilet. The man panics and says he doesn't know her. After a few moments, the train completely explodes. Colter wakes up to find himself bound inside a small geodesic dome. A female voice is calling him back, but Colter is still confused. On a screen appears Air Force Captain Colleen Goodwin. Goodwin realizes that Colter has lost his memory. She helps him rebuild his memory pattern and begins a mnemonic procedure. The woman reads a passage to him as accompanying images appear on the screen. Colter tries to get up from his seat as the woman continues the exercises. Suddenly, he remembers parts of the exercise and regains his memory. Goodwin wants to know what happened on the train and where the explosion came from. In the meantime, Dr. Rutledge briefly pops up on the monitor to check on something. Colter asks to speak to his father, but Goodwin prioritizes the mission and tells him that he has 8 minutes to find who planted the bomb. After that, she sends him back to the train. Stevens notices that things are very similar. Some things repeat, like the coffee on the shoe, while others change. Stevens believes he is in a simulation.
The distraction. Every sim has one.
He starts interrogating people on the train like a freak. Then he gets off the train and realizes he is still in Chicago. He goes in the direction the explosion came from and searches the bathroom. He opens the vents and finds the bomb. He initially asked Goodwin for help, but got no response. He decides to not even touch it and walks out of the bathroom to pretend to be a government agent. He asks the passengers on the train to turn off their phones, but no one listens to him. One guy refuses to turn off his computer, and Stevens punches him. After a few moments, the train explodes again. Stevens returns to Goodwin and, annoyed, asks for an explanation. So, Goodwin asks Dr. Rutledge for permission. Goodwin explains to him that what he has experienced is a past event. A train exploded this morning, and Stevens has taken on the perspective of a man named Sean. This is only the first attack of those that are supposed to follow. Stevens must discover the identity of the bomber. Stevens informs Goodwin that he found the bomb in the bathroom, and it is activated with a phone. Goodwin asks him to get to know the passengers in his wagon and identify someone more agitated. Goodwin tells the captain to focus on the mission because everything else is insignificant and puts Stevens back on the train. This time, he tries to get to know Christina. He suggests they play a game together where they try to figure out who looks the most suspicious on the train. Stevens notices a man coming out of the bathroom where the bomb is located. He plans to follow him out, but tries to save Christina by convincing her to follow him. Christina is in love with Sean, and the kiss persuades her. As soon as they exit the train, Stevens asks Christina to wait for him outside. Stevens begins to follow the man into the bathroom. He continues to stare at him, and the man realizes he is being chased. He follows him outside and sits down next to him. Stevens asks for his cell phone, but the man says he doesn't have it. He attacks the man and grabs his suitcase to look for the phone, but finds nothing. In the distance, the explosion can be seen, and he realizes he followed the wrong person. He, however, continues to look for the phone, but the man with a kick sends Stevens onto the train track. He is killed by the train and wakes up in his capsule. This time it is colder than usual, and he tries to call Goodwin back, but no one answers. On the other end, Goodwin notices abnormalities in Stevens' vital signs. In the meantime, he tries to get out of the capsule, but is stuck inside. Shortly afterward, he manages to reconnect with Goodwin and the commander. Dr. Rutledge is actually the scientist who created this program. Stevens says he saved Christina's life, and he could do this with any passenger, but the doctor said she only survived in the source code. Stevens asks for more explanation. This program is not a time travel machine. He can only go back to a parallel reality and report what he saw through the eyes of Sean Fentress, who is his link. Then Stevens is informed that, in fact, Christina was dead that morning anyway, so the only solution is to find the bomber. They need this information to prevent more devastating attacks in downtown Chicago. Finally, Goodwin tells Stevens that there is a gun in the safe on the train and gives him permission to use it in case he needs it. Stevens returns to the train and by now knows everything that will happen by heart.
You quit your job and you enrolled in an LSAT course.
Good guess.
Soda can. Coffee spill.
He later tries to break into the security office, but is stunned soon after finding the gun. He is handcuffed and wakes up next to Christina. It's a minute before the explosion, and Stevens asks her to call her father, but she doesn't have a phone. Christina tells him that everything will be fine before the train explodes again. He returns to the capsule and asks to speak to his father, but Goodwin demands that he stay focused on the mission. Stevens knows little about this program. Goodwin tells Stevens that only a select few can do this. There is little time left, and Goodwin sends Stevens back to the train. Before he returns, he sees an acronym on her uniform. Instead of looking for the bomb, Steven draws the initials of her uniform and asks Christina to do an internet search on his name. After that, he asks a passenger for a pen and searches his bag for clues. He finds nothing and continues to look around. She notices a woman with a bag from an Army medical center. He asks her about the letters on the patch. She tells him that it stands for Air Force and that the N stands for Nellis. Stevens asks her for a phone and calls Nellis Air Force Base. He asks for Commander Rutledge and asks to tell him that Captain Colter Stevens is calling him. Christina finds Stevens and informs him that Colter Stevens is dead, killed in action 2 months ago. Suddenly, Colter has memories of Afghanistan and hears Goodwin's voice again. When he wakes up in the pod post, he immediately asks Goodwin if he is dead. He had found an article online stating that he was dead and that his father received a medal for him. She firmly asks him to not get distracted from the mission. She tells him that only part of his brain is still alive. Everything else is just an illusion, even the capsule. Time is running out, and the scientist promises to end Stevens' life after he brings the mission to an end. Stevens goes back repeatedly, but can't find the bomber. Now tired and hopeless, he doesn't want to continue. Just before he is about to give up, the commander places a recording of his father during his funeral.
I didn't want him to go back. I just started feeling like he didn't want to come home anymore.
This motivates Stevens to try one more time. He realizes that the bomb is connected to 2 cell phones that act as detonators on the train. He disconnects one and calls back his last number to find out who the bomber is. At first, he suspects a student on the train, but then when he recalls, he notices a young man getting off the train. He sees him put his wallet back on the train, and after he takes it back, he sees his name, Derek Frost. The doors close, and he opens them with the emergency handle to jump off the train. Stevens sees him get into a white van and follows him. He shows him the phone, but Derek pretends not to recognize him. After seeing that he also found his wallet, Derek shows him the second bomb inside the van. As he inspects the bomb, Christina approaches the van. Derek shoots first her and then Stevens. As he is bleeding to death, Derek explains why he is doing this. According to him, the world is a hell that needs to be rebuilt. For it to be rebuilt, it must first be destroyed. After that, Derek gets into the van and leaves the area. The bomb in the train explodes, and Stevens returns to the capsule. Once he returns, he tells Goodwin and Rutledge about the bomber and the van he got into. He provides the van's license plate and confirms that the bomb inside is radioactive. The Army arrests Derek Frost before he can detonate the second bomb. The mission is over, and the commander and Goodwin congratulate Stevens. They had agreed to let him die after the mission, but now Stevens asks to be sent back to try to save people. Goodwin explains to him that he saw nothing but shadows or later images of the people who died on the train. He can't alter the past, but Stevens insists that there was a failsafe on the explosive that he didn't see before. He begs her to play it back one last time for another 8 minutes. They never see each other again, and Goodwin wishes him luck. Stevens returns to the train for the last time. He asks Christina out for coffee, the invitation she's been waiting for 2 weeks. After that, Stevens goes to the bathroom and removes the first and second detonators. He then finds Derek again and cuffs him with the handcuffs from the conductor. Meanwhile, Rutledge gets more good reviews from his superiors about his program. He tells her to erase Stevens' memory and prepare it for a new source code. Goodwin goes to where they keep his body and opens the chamber, seeing the state he is in. Rutledge is informed that Goodwin is with Stevens. He asks the MP to join him in Stevens' room and tries to open the door. Goodwin waits for the 8 minutes on the train to end. Back at the train, Steven calls the police with Derek's phone and confesses everything about the bombing. After that, he emails Goodwin from his phone and calls his father. Stevens introduces himself as his friend. The father tells him he wishes he had told him how much he loved him. Stevens assures him that he knows. He then returns to Christina. He challenges a comedian to make all the people on the train laugh. Stevens constantly checks his watch and asks Christina what she would do if she had less than a minute to live. After that, he kisses her again. MPs rush in, only to see Colter's dead body. Back on the train, the explosion never happens. He and Christina take a walk to the Chicago Bean, and Stevens realizes that his visions during the transition were from that exact moment. His consciousness now resides in another universe. He sends a message to Goodwin from this universe, informing her that their project has created other universes. He asks her to take care of Captain Stevens and tells them that everything will be okay. Click here to find out what a millionaire boxer did after he lost everything, his money and his family.